We're going to be talking about a book today called Unfinished Love, and it was written by Sherry Tucker.
Great book.
And
wow.
She was an accountant for 25 years before becoming a writer and speaker and an advocate for families facing pediatric cancer. She and her husband Dirk, who's with her here today too.
He looks like a Dirk.
They're here to share the love story of their son Zach, and that's what we're going to be talking about.
And you'll
today.
have an opportunity to get your own copy. Go to the website, and you can get everything you need right there.
Absolutely right.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having us.
Good to have you. Thank you for being here. Doesn't he look like a Dirk?
I don't know.
Yeah,
He does.
He could be a cowboy.
Uh-huh.
And he just looks like, you know.
I like that name.
No, yeah, that is
Very
a nice
masculine name.
Yeah. We just had a new nephew. Hey, it's
Uh-oh.
thunder.
We got a little storm out
That's
there
right.
today, don't we,
That's right.
folks?
One of these so if you're watching in other states, we do have rain here every once in a while. Good to have you. This is I mean, throughout the book, page after page, detail of what took place, and that must have been tough for you to write and to go through that again.
Why did you feel it was very important to write this book, Sherry?
Well, as Zach, when he was first diagnosed, the first thing I asked Dirk to do was bring me a pad of paper. I never had journaled in my life, and I just felt overwhelmed with all the information we were getting from the doctors, and I thought that's why I needed the paper. But it turned out to be a very important form of therapy for me, if you want to say. Throughout his journey, I would write in that journal, I would vent, I would talk to God, I would put my prayers down.
Yeah.
And so after Zachary passed away, I knew that those things needed to get put together and his story needed to be told because God had so many messages in that story to share.
Let's start. You talk about the MRI shows there is a brain tumor in the right side of Zach's brain.
Yes.
Now, that message, either one, you can just join in because this is kind of round. This is the backyard. That's why we have it. Why we have
We're
this.
talking about
Our feelings. I'll never forget. I was on Lumsden Avenue over in. I'd left the hospital at St. Joe's about 9:30. We were having, the MRI had been taking place, and I thought, well, I got to go to work next day. So I left about 9:30. I'm driving home. I get my cell phone rings about 10:04. Never forget it. Looked at my truck dash. 10:04. And Sherry said the doctor would like us to come back to the hospital. I'm like, well, it'll be 30 minutes. And guess he didn't have the patience and told me over the phone. And obviously our world changed forever that evening.
How old was Zach at that point in time?
He was 2 days before his 8th birthday.
Okay.
And he actually had surgery 2 days later on his 8th birthday.
Now, what was the first signs that there was something wrong? Did you think something was wrong with him?
Well, that's the thing about brain tumors. They typically don't show symptoms until they're really advanced. And what happened with Zach was we were on vacation a few weeks before in Georgia, and we noticed that he wasn't using his left hand as he normally did. And
did he notice?
He just said.
Unfortunately, he didn't say anything.
Yeah.
But now that we look back, I mean, he could tie his shoes very well, but he was having people tie his shoes. And now that we look back on it, it was obvious to us. But where we really noticed is we was at Rock City, and they were having ice cream, and there's a picture in a book about it, and right after that picture was taken, we're like, okay guys, you can eat your ice cream as we go, and Zach acted really funny, and I got a little aggravated with him, and I said, look, just put it in your left hand, your cup in your left hand, and eat with your right, and when I went to do that, his hand was shriveled, and that's when
it just wouldn't grip. It wouldn't. Wow. He couldn't hold.
It wouldn't grip,
and so
that's when we realized that something was up.
So he had said nothing up to this point, isn't that something?
He just, and when I asked him about it, he said, well, it's just not working right, Mom. And so we thought maybe he had heard it in sports because he loved sports. He was all about playing soccer and basketball and whatever he could do. And when we got back from vacation, I took him to a doctor, and they initially did not associate it with a brain tumor when they first looked into it.
You gave us some pictures of Zach, so we'll start when he's younger and so forth. But just to give you viewers an idea what Zach looks like. That's how old was he?
Barry was 1.
He is just.
He always had the most beautiful smile.
Doll. He is a doll. And Wow.
And that was in preschool.
And does he have blue eyes? I think so.
Yeah.
Look at that. My goodness, what a
Yeah,
face.
and that was a few years later. He was about first grade.
Wow.
And that's his sister, Lexi.
Boy, she
That's the one that-
she look. Your names fit your children.
She fits the
like
name.
Dirk, you know. It's like Lexi. That is beautiful. Now he was a real athlete. Wasn't
Yes, this was his first triathlon. He was coming out of the swim portion, getting ready to go get on a bike, and you can just see in his face that was him. He was
Yeah.
Mr. Competition, and
Yeah.
he was just
Enjoying it.
had
Yeah.
so much joy.
Okay,
That was
well-
about 10 months before diagnosis.
Okay, look at that. Look at that. Oh,
And
my
then that
goodness.
was the end of his second grade school year.
I mean, he looks like, boy, that he could play football.
Yeah,
And not you.
Absolutely.
What was his height there?
You know, he was probably about 4'9",
Okay.
and that was a year later after treatments. And you can see what a change.
Okay, we'll come back to that one, Dave, a little later, okay? But I'm just pulling stuff from the book because it's great read. You folks that are watching will give you an insight into, things that only the Lord can take care of you through this kind of journey. Only the Lord. You say, what do I tell Zach? Now, that had to be, with this diagnosis, as a parent, it's like, how do you sit down? And either one of you can just join in, but how do you sit down and share this?
Yeah.
What do you do?
You know, that was the first thing that popped in my head when the doctor took me to see that MRI with the brain tumor. And from the very beginning, it was just, they kept telling me, you just tell them the basics and let them ask the questions, because we as adults have so many preconceived notions
Sure.
about
Yeah.
different things, especially medical issues, and children don't. And their innocence is a
Yeah.
gift in terms of not being overwhelmed by a situation. So that's how we handled it. We told Zach the basics. The doctor actually helped me very much when we first told him, and just said there was something in his brain that shouldn't be there, and that there were some doctors that were going to help take care of that.
Did they operate on him?
Yes, 2 days later after the initial MRI, he had surgery, and it was on his 8th birthday. So,
Now, obviously, because I can think back to our son going through where he had to have a spinal tap, and what we went through just for that. And when I'm reading this, I'm going, my gracious, how would you handle this? Because Zach has got to be saying, I don't want this operation. I mean, that would be normal.
That was the amazing part. Zach displayed such courage and
Really?
strength.
Never complain once. It's
He
it's
never
the grace
asked
of God is
why.
what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's an example of the grace of God, and it's unbelievable when you look back at it. But I can't remember. Well, I guess the feeding tube. That's
Yeah,
later on.
that
But
was the
the
tough
feeding
thing.
tube was obviously very discomforting to him. But you just wondered. You looked at him and you just wondered what's going through his mind, because he never said a word.